Okay, coming to us next. Get ready for us live. Standing by. Take us now.
This is what happened in the moments before President Donald Trump took this famous photo in front of St. John's Episcopal Church. What you were witnessing, what the world witnessed on video, the tear gassing of protesters outside Lafayette Square Park June 1st.
Watch yourself, watch yourself, watch yourself! Heads up, heads up!
Federal police initially said that did not happen. U.S. Park Police, the Department of Justice, and multiple police agencies denied that tear gas was used to clear away protesters. But that was not the truth.
The truth is, they did launch tear gas. I'm WUSA9's Nathan Baca. My colleagues and I were there. We saw federal police use that tear gas. We picked up evidence. We pressed for answers, and our investigative team is holding leaders accountable.
We found these canisters on the street, 8th Street and 17th Street to be exact, just minutes after running alongside fleeing protesters, running away from federal police officers with shields, batons, horses, and a cloud of noxious cough and tear-inducing gas. That sharp scent of tear gas, first attacking the eyes and then the lungs, hung in the air. Catching a breath, some protesters got help from one of our news crews escaping the same federal push.
The police officer shot you in the face?
When this cloud begins to dissipate, people start running and people start fleeing the area. And when that happens, oftentimes there's an effect of a stampede, and people can fall and injure themselves.
Here's what we learned about each of those canisters. This one is a 40mm scat shell canister designed to be launched and spread natural OC tear gas into a crowd. This 37mm canister labeled as carrying artificial CS tear gas. Along with the canisters, we also found this rubber remnant of an exploded stinger bolt grenade, the torn stickers still labeling the OC tear gas that was once inside, packed with high-velocity rubber pellets. Scorch marks show how they've already been fired.
Seeing this saying OC, what do you believe actually was in this container, this stinger ball?
That would be the pepper spray version, along with the flash and along with the small rubber bullets chunks that are going to, hit anybody that happens to be there.
Former bomb disposal expert Brian Kastner is now with Amnesty International.
The rubber pellets that come out of this, could it harm somebody?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, think about the force it takes to take that rubber ball and to have broken it apart.
Unlike the store-bought fireworks we witnessed a small number of agitators throw toward police those days, these canisters certainly are unique to police purchased from specialized defense supply companies and requiring special launchers to even use them. But according to federal officials, no police agency takes responsibility for once owning the munitions held in these canisters, despite the fact the serial numbers are still plainly visible.
I just want to know what they're doing here. They're just staring at these officers. They're not saying anything. They're not holding any signs. Like this gentleman right here to your right. Okay, he does have a sign.
Yeah, he's being very quiet, and we can see him standing here just kind of looking at law enforcement. Sir, if you don't mind, can you walk me through just the feelings being here right now, seeing the law enforcement?
Yeah, I'm just tired of hearing about black people dying. I'm tired of being afraid just by being stopped by the cops.
To Lafayette Square now. What are you seeing from there, Nathan? That fire's still burning.
Okay, we've been seeing the past few minutes, the police and the National Guard are starting to push forward on 8th Street, started to take over 8th Street, that is just north of the White House. And so they have taken over the one area where the first bonfire was. They're about to take over the second area where the bonfire is. We've been seeing some back and forth when it comes to either fireworks being launched at police or flashbangs being launched at the protesters or water bottles, as you see right now, at the police. Watch out, we got another wave.
Watch yourself, they're coming.
They are coming, they are coming.
Right, protesters are saying this is a new day. We're taking back our personhood. We're taking back the symbols that we leave up in our city and in our nation, that this does not reflect the country that we want to be. All right, let's go to Nathan Baca right now, because Nathan, you were giving us some perspective, and you have been out for weeks as well covering this protest and some real touch points along the way. I would say this is one of the more significant moments too.
Right, because looking into who Albert Pike was and specifically what his life and his goals were. And the primary situation here is that Albert Pike was a Confederate Brigadier General. He wanted a nation, the Confederate States of America, fought for a nation that he believed would be good for the country and specifically that nation, as the Vice President of the Confederate States, Alexander Stephens, wanted, was specifically founded on keeping slavery as an institution. That is what the Confederacy was about, and Albert Pike wanted that and fought for that.
As a black man and as a person who grew up right here in this city, today was emotional, it was powerful, and it was unforgettable. You see, go-go is the heartbeat of this city. It is the soundtrack of our lives. We use it in the good times and in the bad. And today, our culture was used as a form of protest. That protest from Long Live Go-Go started right here at 14th and U. T.O.B. and Subtle Thoughts Band made their way down U onto 16th and stopped to have moments like these. You see, Go-Go is all about that call and response, but instead of shouting out neighborhoods today, we heard shouts for justice. People told us why they were out here to be a part of this protest, and they shared their personal stories of discrimination, prejudice, and injustice.
It's like, why do we have to be a target? Like, what did I do?
Some saying the problems happening across the country are also going down right here in our own backyard.
And they shot him in his head, in his back, and all about his body. Tell this mayor to release the body cam. We got Black Lives Matter spray painted across at Lafayette Square. Do Black Lives really matter?
Then there was this moment where the band led the crowd under the Scotts Circle Tunnel. The crowd went crazy.
Tonight, a standoff on the streets between Antifa and supporters of the president. Several groups associating with the Proud Boys took a stand, part of the last gasps of a Trump presidency. Black Lives Matter banners burned. Antifa also clashed with police near Black Lives Matter Plaza. Objects thrown and some members tackled. The demonstrations spurred by today's March for Trump, the president making a brief appearance on Marine One, as denial over his loss was in full force.
Social media is a breeding ground for misinformation. As we head toward the election, it's getting even more intense. We see political activists stirring up confusion and information is going viral without all the facts. From bad information about the ballots.
A postal person could see this if they're a Democrat and say, oh, that's an R, let's toss it.
To concerns and confusion.
This looks like an ad for Donald Trump. This does not look like an absentee ballot request form.
We've spent months tracking down election officials in Maryland, D.C., and Virginia and finding the best sources in the country to get you the right information. We are here to get you the verified information you need to make sure your vote counts. Yeah, let's get started tonight with one of the biggest sources of concern and confusion. Millions of people around the country are using ballot drop boxes for the very first time. A viewer reached out to us, our verified team, and wanted to know who's in charge of those boxes exactly. So our Gabe Cohen actually took her along so she and you can see what happens once that ballot drops.
Right now, millions of Americans are getting their first look at a ballot drop box. While a few states have had these for years, because of COVID concerns, at least 40 states, plus D.C., are now using them this election to help voters cast mail-in ballots. A seemingly simple tool, now suddenly controversial.
This is going to be a fraud like you've never seen.
In recent months, President Trump has railed against mail-in voting and drop boxes. In August, tweeting in part, quote, "Now the Democrats are using mail drop boxes, which are a voter security disaster. Who controls them?" Ballots are now pouring in.
Hi, Sharon, how are you?
80-year-old Sharon Lenius is a verified viewer in Fairfax County, Virginia, which got its first ballot drop boxes this year.
What do you want to know from elections officials?
Where the ballots go. I want to know where they go.
So let's verify. How are these Dropbox ballots collected and counted? Fairfax County Elections Director Gary Scott agreed to show me and Sharon their process, step by step.
Can you assure voters like Sharon that these boxes are secure?
Yes, they are secure.
The box itself is under 24/7 surveillance.
Everyone who has access to the ballot is an employee of our office.
Twice a day, 2 elections workers clear the box.
There are never 2 people of the same political party.
The bagged ballots head inside to this sorting room where they're checked into the computer system and mixed in with the other mail-in ballots.
Can we come in?
Then they go to pre-processing where they're scanned for a second time. And finally, they come to the counting room to be run through this high-speed machine.
How precise are these machines?
Exceptionally. This is not particularly new technology.
Virginia voters can track their ballot online, and Scott says if anyone tries to vote twice, the system stops it.
I mean, it's not perfect, and I'm not going to claim that it's perfect, but it's as secure as we can possibly make it.
Adam Longo is on the case.
The lights will go out pretty soon.
See the flash at nighttime coming back from the gym, and I see that camera going off. It's just flickering. So it's definitely handing out tickets.
Club 270, we'll call it, has been lit for the past year and a half. $3.2 million in fines, just over 81,000 tickets in 16 months. A handful of those tickets landing in the mailbox of this woman.
I've gotten so many, I've had to just add it Safe Speed to my speed pay on my automatic banking.
It's a tricky little moneymaker, discreetly positioned behind a large porta potty on the southbound shoulder of Interstate 270 in Montgomery County.
A lot of us view the porta potty and the camera in the same light.
It's just north of a construction zone where crews are putting the finishing touches on a new overpass at Watkins Mill Road. State transportation leaders say it isn't there to put out club vibes or to raid your wallet. It's there to keep the construction workers safe.
I wouldn't hop in a vehicle and go speeding through someone else's office. It happens on mine all the time.
Construction engineer Amy Andrews saw a fellow worker get clobbered in a work zone once.
One of his arms, his hip, his thigh bone.
Andrews has been on the job with the Maryland Department of Transportation for almost 2 decades.
Anybody that does this job has had a close call for the most part.
Back in 2009, when this Safe Zone program first started, better than 7% of people had the pedal to the metal, speeding, driving through work zones. But now with these Safe Zone cameras in place, that number's dropped to 1%.
MDOT gave us that information and said pre-coronavirus, 200,000 vehicles came through this stretch of road every day.
Yes, they have worked. They do slow people down. Nobody wants to get a ticket.
But this particular camera isn't in the actual work zone. It's set a bit away from where crews are actually working.
All red brake lights, right where that camera is. You see the brake lights come on, and then of course everyone just takes off.
It is sneaky, but in all fairness, they do have signs that say speed camera corridor, and they do say speed cameras in use.
In fact, on a recent drive, I counted no fewer than 5 different warning signs leading up to that camera.
We stood over our son's grave on that day. They're handing me the flag. I just remember being right, you see it in movies. You see it in movies. Then you think, no, it's not going to be. This isn't going to happen to us. Our son was never deployed. He lost his life in a military hospital in the United States.
Almost 3 years after their son's death, Dana and Susie Way say they're still fighting to hold the military accountable. Corpsman Jordan Way went in for shoulder surgery at the Naval Hospital where he was stationed in California. He was prescribed oxycodone for the pain and sent home. Hours later, he would return to the same Naval Hospital's emergency room. Medical records show the Maryland native was sobbing and in very obvious distress. An NCIS investigation of Jordan's death says the surgeon okayed more pain meds in the ER and again when Jordan called the next day saying he was still in extreme pain. The autopsy report confirms the 23-year-old shipmates monitored his use of the opioids.
The pain never went away, but yet the medication was shutting him down. And he knew that there was something wrong, and he sought help.
Investigators say their review revealed 90 pills of oxycodone were prescribed, and Jordan took 82 of them, as prescribed, over about 4 days. Jordan's roommates found him unresponsive. He died 4 days after his surgery.
And the pain medication worked so well, my son never woke up again. Taking exactly what the doctor told him to do, reaching out for help.
Dana and Susie were at home in Mount Airy, Maryland throughout all of this. It took more than a year for them to find out all the details of what happened to their son. Records show Jordan took the pain medication exactly as doctors told him to, and the medical examiner eventually ruled the cause of death as opioid toxicity.
Something had to be done. Our son's life was taken from him. It was absolute medical malpractice and negligence.
Up until December of last year, the Ways had no way to hold the military financially accountable for this. That's because of something called the Ferris Doctrine. Part of that law changed because of this man's fight. Sergeant First Class Richard Stayskull's cancer was never diagnosed by an Army doctor. Service members still can't sue for medical malpractice. But after hearing his story, Congress passed a law requiring the Department of Defense to create a process for service members to file claims.
So when President Trump signed that, for the first time, Jordan's voice in my ear silenced. Because before it was a constant, "Mom, Mom, tell them, you've got to do something. You've got to do something. I did nothing wrong. Tell them." And there was hope.
Time to get up. Kai, wake up.
The Corbett's decided to take a big risk and switch up their routine.
They'll come and we'll all jump in the car and take the 30-minute ride to Southeast.
Satira and Kevin Corbett send their oldest son, Kai, to a startup school in D.C. with a different approach to learning.
They get us, like, they understand how we are.
But the more we thought about it, we knew that Kai needed something else. He needed the cultural piece. Like at the last school that the boys were at, we asked about, oh, what's the Black History Month program that we're doing? We want to be involved. And they were like, well, no, we really don't want to. We don't do Black History Month program.
Nandi, come on.
Just raising a little black boy, I knew I needed more than that.
Statesman College Preparatory Academy opened last school year and will add a new class each fall up until 8th grade.
How are you, sir?
Richter Craig is one of the founders of this public charter school, focused on young men of color, most living in D.C.'s wards 7 and 8.
Boys of color are just dissed. They're disengaged, disenfranchised, discouraged. They get dissed every day.
Black males are least likely to graduate from high school in D.C., according to data from the district. Only 74% of black boys and 60% of Hispanic boys graduated on time last year.
Here go Craig, Mr. King.
Craig's team is charting a different course.
We give our families everything. They don't have to pay for anything that's related to school. So uniforms, shoes, school supplies, like everything that is associated with school we take care of.
We kind of go from class to class, and it's fun for me. Yeah. It feels like college.
In class, there are the usual English and math lessons, but popular black culture is infused to help students better understand the subject.
I feel like here I learn more and I'm able to concentrate.
Who wins?
History class is a different story. They call it Kings 101.
When this academic war come, when this test come, I need that same energy.
Black history is standard, starting in Africa with stories about kings and queens, veering away from the traditional history lessons.
First image of a man who looked like me that I saw in my history book was a man in chains on his knees. What does that do to a black kid who sees that, right? Who looks at a man in chains as a man who looks like him and sees a man who may not look like him as a king.
Right there. With 130 students, it's mandatory for teachers to keep them active for most of the day. There's required reading between classes, and this is what a lesson about the Stone Age looks like. It's a competition.
9 times 9, Solomon.
Which is a staple in their curriculum.
For shelters, because they were in teepees, I'm thinking about having a teepee competition, right?
Life is a competition. You're gonna fail a bunch of times, but equally you shall succeed.
For now, this is what these 4th and 5th graders consider a successful day. One of many incentives for excelling in class and good behavior is a trip to the game room.
3, 2, 1.
Sitting still is just as important, with one-on-one mindfulness sessions each week for teachers and students.
Just teaching them ways to address their emotions without feeling like they can't have an emotion. Because the misconception of being a male in general is you can't feel, you can't have emotions. This one over here, he lost his father the week that we did session, but he wanted to put peace, hope, and joy on the wall.
Only 2 students were suspended last year. Statesman teachers say the way black boys behave is often misinterpreted and is where the disconnect begins.
Their moments of emotional discomfort are often feared. So they're deemed as special ed, or they need to go to the ISS class because they might do something, and it's usually the same thing. They're just a bigger kid with the same tantrum as a child of a different race.
Are we going to cut the pig in the same fashion that we cut our frog?
This 5th grader says he's an A student, but started to lose interest and never felt valued at his old school because of the color of his skin.
Out of 500 kids at that school, there was only about 15 black kids, so I feel like they thought all of us were aggressive or all of us had a learning disability or things like that.
Nearly half of all Statesman students are considered at risk, a higher concentration than many other schools in D.C., and most are behind grade level.
A striped tie means you get all A pluses, all B pluses, or both. For me, I get all A pluses.
36 divided by 8. 64 divided by 8.
But with 1 full year down, Craig is sure this model will work, and most students will be at grade level or higher when the first class moves on to high school in 2023.
We want them to know that school is fun. School is not a place that feels like prison. School is not a place where I'm gonna go and get additional traumas.
The main operation of the liver is to clean and take in the bad stuff of your body. For example, alcohol.
As for the Corbett's, they're convinced this is the right path to prepare Kai for the real world and plan to send his younger brother when he starts 4th grade next year.
You know, when you walk out the door and turn on the TV, you know very much that you are considered a minority, and you know very much that there are some things that are stacked against you. So it really is kind of like a retreat for a few hours a day.
Some groups are critical of single-gender schools like the ACLU, which has said broadly separating boys and girls in public schools is a serious threat to gender equality. However, Craig says this appears to be the right approach. I'm Lorenzo Hall, WUSA9.
5-year-old Amani is in her virtual kindergarten classroom, and she's having an emergency.
What's wrong with you?
A paper cut emergency.
Oh, Lord. Hold on, guys.
Problem is, her mom is in class too. She's teaching high school English virtually in Prince George's County. After some quick mommy first aid, Gava Hickman Johnson, or Miss J as she's known to students, gets back to class. Thus is the life of a teacher during the pandemic's virtual school.
I was able to save the finger, guys. We can move on.
But the distractions of teaching from home aren't the only concerns on Miss J's mind during the COVID-19 pandemic. She worries it will lead to a decrease in education funding. In Maryland, some of that money comes from gambling and is put into an education trust fund. The public health emergency forced casinos to close this spring. Take a look at this data from the state. No money went into the fund in April and May. When casinos reopened in June, their capacity was limited, and so was their revenue. There would be no jackpot for schools. A WUSA9 investigation shows at the end of fiscal year 20, which closed out in June, the fund had a deficit of almost $23 million.
We're expected to do without, and now you're expecting us to do without plus without some more.
It's hard. It's hard and it's scary because at the end of the day, we all want what's best for our kids.
We asked the Maryland State Education Association what kinds of concrete consequences this could have. Here's what they say the deficit could mean. Increased class sizes, less school staff, less support professionals who help students, less school counselors and psychologists. And there are concerns there could be even more cuts, says MSEA President Cheryl Boast and Executive Director Sean Johnson.
We are not spreadsheet governing here. What it really is a gap in people and programs and services that are desperately needed. And I just want to make sure we don't lose sight of those bottom line, of what those dollars are investing in.
This comes at a time when educators are weighing fears about bringing students back into school buildings and implementing costly pandemic safety protocols.
So that's a lot of stress. Students, we hope, don't feel that stress. We want to be back in school. We know that we offer the best education when we're in person, but it has to be done in a healthy and safe manner. And to do that, we need additional resources and not the fear of seeing more cuts.
Bye, everybody. Have a good one.
As Ms. J closes out fifth period.
All right.
Whew. She worries about the future.
If you don't take care of your students, the students of Prince George's County, they then become your constituents of Prince George's County who are now not completely educated, which means they then could possibly become an additional drain on an already struggling system.
Budget talks have already started, but they won't fully ramp up until the General Assembly session in January. That's when we'll get a more concrete picture of exactly what these shortfalls mean for students and teachers.
Right now on the website and the WUSA9 app, you can see those numbers for yourself and go inside Miss J's virtual classroom. We begin at 5 with breaking news on the storm damage that stretches across at least 4 local counties. We've got a team of meteorologists and reporters to break down the cause and the effects of this severe weather. One of the hardest hit areas is in Leesburg, and that's where my co-anchor Adam Longo begins our live team coverage tonight. Hey, Ads.
Hi, Leslie, where I'm standing in Loudoun County in Leesburg. This is the area that took the brunt of this storm damage about 7:45 this morning. Let me take you through the scene where we are here off of Route 15 and Battlefield Parkway, a row of townhomes. You can see there's trees all over this neighborhood. This one of the biggest ones that came down, knocking fencing here all through. You can see the fence line is just strewn out here on the ground. This is one of the townhomes that got the worst amount of damage. Look up there. The siding is just peeled back. The insulation in the side of that has fallen to the ground. All of this white stuff you see out here, right? This is all attic insulation that has just been sucked out of that area. To give you a better look around the entire area, we've got some aerial footage we can show you from Leesburg. A very wide swath of damage. There are scenes like this repeated throughout the community here. A lot of trees down. There are trees down on homes. There are trees down on cars. There is a spot over just about 50 meters from where I'm standing where they had trees come down in the backyard. Some roof shingles came off where the house just got put on the market for sale yesterday. The owner planning to do an open house on that location this weekend. All right, Topper, thank you. We've moved locations. Take a look over here. That's where we just were standing, about 200 meters away, 200 yards away, where the siding had been ripped off of that townhome. Come and look back here. This is some of that siding right here. It just flew all the way down here. And then take a look behind me here. This is a car under this massive tree that has come down. Some damage on the hood there. It looks like the windshield might still be intact. This damage extending from Virginia well into Maryland as well. My colleague Nathan Baca is in Dickerson, Maryland right now, which is in Upper Montgomery County. And Nathan, I have a feeling that you were awoken to the same thing I was this morning. The alert going off on the phone saying that there was a tornado warning in our region. I live just down the street in Clarksburg, Maryland. It was quite a shock to hear that on a winter morning. What kind of damage are you seeing up there?
That's right, Adam. I live in Germantown, and my wife and my child, my baby, had to bring them down to the basement. I'm showing you now what's here at the Dickerson area. We're talking about a tree just uprooted. This pine tree gone. We're here along Martinsburg Road, and it got tore up.
In D.C.'s exclusive Kalorama neighborhood, you can find Obamas and an Ivanka. but the biggest home belongs to a Bezos.
It's the Amazon embassy. In fact, I think he's about to take over this whole section of the city.
It may soon be the most famous D.C. residence not named the White House. Jeff Bezos paid $23 million for the old textile museum on S Street in Northwest and promptly launched a $12 million renovation to transform the museum into his own private residence.
You're entering Citizen Kane level of cavernous size.
We got our hands on all the blueprints and permits filed with the city. The 34,000 square foot mansion includes 11 enormous bedrooms, one grand ballroom. There's a wine cellar, a whiskey tasting room, even a movie theater. Oh yeah, and 1,006 light fixtures.
Turn the lights in the living room on.
You guys ever deliver Amazon boxes?
What's it here?
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah.
You know who lives here.
Of course. Hey.
The neighborhood's newest power player, no secret. His massive restoration, hard to miss, especially all those contractors lining the street every day. And we noticed many of those vehicles were often parked illegally. So we gathered up all the records on every single parking ticket handed out along the stretch of S Street between October 2016, when Bezos bought the mansion, and October 2019. Over that 3-year period, we added up a whopping $16,840 worth of parking tickets. 535 citations in all, 93 of them handed out in a single month. That's about 3 parking tickets every day during that stretch. And they were often for things that could have caused a real headache for people around here. In addition to ignoring no parking signs or parking in spots reserved for residents, we found tickets issued for vehicles blocking crosswalks and obstructing the path of pedestrians.
I spoke with 2 different contractors who confirmed to me they did work here at the Bezos home, and they told me anybody hired to be part of this renovation had to sign a non-disclosure agreement. So matching up every parking ticket written out here to a specific vehicle tied to the Bezos project would be next to impossible. But day after day, we watched as workers left this Bezos mansion and walked straight out to their ticketed vehicles.
Your family tell you to get you here?
They said it was only pictures. I thought it was just pictures and I was gonna leave, but oh my God.
Welcome to your pop-up surprise graduation.
Thank you.
Come on over. Our goal was to make sure that you had the graduation that you didn't get to have because of COVID-19. We're gonna let you walk up the red carpet and walk across the stage.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. It's just been a lot going on. Thank you. I don't got no words. Like, I don't got nothing to say. It's just surprising to me.
Are you ready to go to your special graduation seat? Okay, let's do it. All right, this is a celebration for Jakaya.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today it is my honor to welcome you for the class of 2020 graduation honoring Jakaya McCray. Come on up, Jakaya.
I really appreciate this moment right now because I went through a lot, from losing a brother in 2015. And I really appreciate everything everybody did for me every step of the way. And oh God.
Jakaya, on behalf of our Impact team, we are so excited to celebrate you today. You are the first in your family to go to college. Now, I want you to know that this day would not be possible here without the generosity of Crisis Entertainment, that decided they wanted to honor a deserving young student and give them the graduation that they missed.
So I want to bring up a couple people from an organization called Invisible Hand to tell you what they do and why they're here today. So, Mr. Pierce, come on up.
From time to time, we team with the Impact team, and they contacted us and said, we have a remarkable story about a recent high school grad who has faced and overcome many challenges And they said, is there any chance that you could help out with a MacBook Pro for college? So we said, oh, we'd be happy to do that and pitch in a MacBook Pro, but
wait, there's more.
Jakaya, we wanted you to be able to equip your dorm room with just a bit more for the MacBook. You're going to need a microwave from time to time, all right? You're going to need your bedding, you're going to need your storage, you're going to need your USBs, all of the things that make it complete.
Oh, I'm proud of you.
Mom, how are you doing with all of this?
I'm overwhelmed. I'm just so proud of her because she has really overcame a whole lot.
Our mission is to lift people over obstacles standing in the way of a constructive path. That's exactly what our anonymous benefactors want.
And to be able to witness this moment when she can't have a real graduation, but to have this with all the important people in her life and to celebrate her accomplishments and just a joy to be a part of it today.
When you see bright young people, you know, we got to help them. We got to help them reach.
The news at 11 begins with some breaking news about the new coronavirus. Maryland is reporting its first cases. 3 people living in Montgomery County have tested positive for the virus. Good evening, I'm Leslie Foster. Governor Larry Hogan declared a state of emergency tonight, and we're focused on facts, not fear, when it comes to the coronavirus. We know you have questions, so we're going to walk you through what we know. Our team is covering every angle of this story. John Henry and Jess Arnold are in Montgomery County, but we're going to start with Mike Valerio and the latest from Governor Hogan. Mike?
Well, Leslie, first and foremost, the governor's team said the patients are in good health and getting better. They're at home in Montgomery County in self-quarantine, and they were never hospitalized. Governor Hogan identified the 3 people who tested positive as a married couple in their 70s and a woman in her 50s. And here's another important point. The 3 people contracted the novel coronavirus during overseas travel together. They didn't contract it in the United States, and that's according to the state's deputy health secretary. The governor added that he had this message for anybody asking what this all means.
While today's news may seem overwhelming, this is not a reason to panic. Marylanders should go to work or go to school just as they normally do.
Again, the governor said the 3 people are in good condition and a thorough investigation is underway to determine their interactions with the public. Officials said they came back to Maryland on February 20th, but authorities wouldn't say where the 3 Montgomery residents came back from. We also don't know which hospital they visited to hand over samples for testing. Authorities stress that the patient's visit to the hospital was pre-planned and all proper protocols were put in place. The governor did say the 3 have been 100% cooperative and they were well enough to bring themselves to the hospital within the past few days. Leslie?
Yeah, a lot of work is going to be done to determine where they went during that time period. Mike, thank you. We're getting some answers from the Montgomery County Health Department, and Jess Arnold is live in Silver Spring with that part of the story. Hey, Jess.
Hey, Leslie. Yeah, the main message tonight from the Montgomery County Health Officer, Dr. Travis Gales, is do not panic. He said he still believes the risk of contracting the virus is low. Now, he says he does think that they could be up all night investigating these 3 now confirmed COVID-19 cases in the county, looking at what Mike was talking about, some of the contact with people in the area. Like he said, though, he still believes that that risk is low. Now, he said that they were just informed about these cases this afternoon, right after the state lab confirmed those test results. He said, though, that neighbors should take comfort in the fact that officials have linked those cases to overseas travel.
If cases are tied to a travel history versus cases where you've got an individual who hasn't traveled anywhere, hasn't been exposed to anyone who's considered to be high or medium risk based upon their level of exposure in travel history. And so these are 2 very different things. Now, not to say that things may not get to that point, but right now, given that we're able to tie it back to a source that's related to travel history, it gives us a little bit more comfort that it's not something that's just circulating out in the community that has to increase the level of suspicion beyond where it is right now.
Now, he said whatever they find out from that investigation should help inform the county's next steps. But in the meantime, he said, just take the same precautions, wash your hands, use hand sanitizer, don't stand too close to people. And he said hopefully they should have some more information for the public at tomorrow's press conference, which is happening at 9 a.m. outside of the county executive building. Leslie?
Everybody's going to be paying attention to that. Just thank you. Parents, we know you're concerned about your kids, and Montgomery County schools will remain open. John Henry is live at the Montgomery County Public School headquarters in Rockville with this part of the story. Hi, John.
Hi, Leslie. Yeah, according to Governor Hogan, one of the first people who was notified by the state about this development tonight was Dr. Jack Smith. He's the superintendent of schools here in Montgomery County. Well, earlier today, Dr. Smith told us this was a situation he and the system had spent weeks preparing for. Well, we now know how the school system will move forward. As you said, school will remain open tomorrow in Montgomery County. Now, we spoke with Montgomery County's chief health officer, Dr. Travis Gales, who's tasked with making that decision on behalf of the schools. And he said based on the information he has now, he believes the risk of exposure in schools is extremely low. The school system says it has been working with the county's health department on how to handle all matters related to the coronavirus. On top of that, as of now, state health officials say they have no information to suggest the 3 people who tested positive for coronavirus encountered any children.
We don't have indication of that, and that's really a matter of protocol, so that we want to make sure that local officials, whether that's the school superintendent, certainly the elected officials, the health officer, as well as the emergency management officials would know about such an instance. So that was a matter of protocol just for advisory purposes. We don't have any information about any of these individuals having contact with Montgomery County schools or school-aged children at this point.
Now, once again, schools in Montgomery County are remaining open, but the school system also said tonight that as it moves forward, it is preparing for the possibility of school closures in the future should they become necessary. The system did tell us earlier today that it actually already has a plan in place to give out assignments and teacher messages via the internet if that were to occur. From Rockville, John Henry, WUSA9.
All right, John, thank you. And a lot of us rely on Metro to get to work. The Red Line travels right through Montgomery County with more than a dozen stations there. So what is the transit agency doing to keep you safe? Well, Metro tells us it's stepping up the cleaning efforts at the stations, the trains, the buses, and most of the equipment and stations will be cleaned once a week. We talked to an expert who says the best way to stay healthy is, again, to wash your hands as often as possible.
It's just not feasible for the Metro to be cleaning every 5 minutes. And somebody else has been touching it since it was last cleaned, so you're going to have to take responsibility for that. It's unavoidable.
Dr. Milton also says workplaces should consider staggering those start times. That way the rush hour at Metro won't be as crowded. All right, Virginia and D.C., let's talk about you for a minute. Right now, there are no confirmed cases in those areas. D.C. is still waiting for test results on 2 people. Virginia has 3 tests pending. So if you do need a test for the coronavirus, will it cost you a lot of money? Evan Kosloff and the Verify team had that part of our coverage.
As the new strain of coronavirus spreads, so does misinformation. That's why the Verify team is here to get the truth. After all, we're about facts, not fear. This is a post that's gotten thousands of retweets on Twitter. The person wrote that the U.S. is charging over $3,000 per test. So let's verify. Are patients really being charged for the coronavirus test? Our sources for this one are the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the New York State Department of Health, the Food and Drug Administration, and the Kaiser Family Foundation. Let's start with the FDA. They're the ones who approve any testing that's going to be happening here in the U.S. So far, they've given permission to 2 groups, the CDC and the New York Department of Health. The New York Department of Health said that the state of New York is actually covering their costs, and the CDC said they're not aware of any states that are charging to use their tests. So why are some patients facing these high bills?
Hi, my name is Jen Cates.
This is a senior vice president at the Kaiser Family Foundation. She explained what's going on here.
That a lot of people get surprise medical bills and aren't expecting them. So it's not the test, it's the other things surrounding the test.
Things like ambulance costs, doctor fees, or other care at the hospital. So we can verify, false. The test does not cost $3,000. It's free. If you have something that you want verified, send us your question at verify@WUSA9.com.
And right now, several companies are working to create a vaccine, and the military is too. Some of that research is happening at Maryland's Fort Detrick, at Walter Reed, and a lab in Silver Spring. Here's investigative reporter Laura Geller.
It was just 4 days ago the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff stood here and told reporters military researchers were working on a coronavirus vaccine. We immediately asked for interviews to bring you that information, and today those researchers gave us details. We aren't allowed in the Maryland labs just yet, so this is video given to us by the Department of Defense.
Regrettably, because one seems to come, every year or so, we're getting very good at this.
Here's where that work stands right now. Scientists say they are looking into how mice respond to potential vaccines. They're not examining if they protect against COVID-19 yet, but how mice respond to them. Officials believe the earliest they'll have a vaccine for the public is 12 to 18 months. It's complicated, but here's the simplest breakdown.
Think of this as the virus, my fist, it's a sphere, right? And it's got little spokes coming off of it. That makes it the corona. When you look at it on cross-section, it's got that crown look to it. So almost all the vaccine candidates out there are focused on that little spoke.
Once they figure out how to prevent that spoke from attaching to the body, that's what will make for a good vaccine. This is not new research. These scientists were the first to test the Ebola vaccine. Malaria drugs came through here. It hasn't always been easy. Last summer, the CDC shut down the lab at Fort Detrick because of structural defects. The commander says there was never any danger to the community, but changes had to be made, and the lab was restored last month. Now they're able to work the coronavirus at all levels.
We're supporting a whole-of-government approach to detect, prevent, and treat COVID-19.
This isn't just about a vaccine, but also treatment. The general said they are working on an agreement with an industry partner on that aspect. We are working to get you more information on that, and we'll put it in this story on the WUSA9 app and website. At the Pentagon, Laura Geller, WUSA9.
I know this is a lot to process, but the bottom line tonight from all the experts is there is no need to panic. 3 people have tested positive for coronavirus in Montgomery County. They're in good condition, they're getting better, and they're quarantined at home for now. So let me put this into context for you. Tonight, there were 3 cases of coronavirus in the state of Maryland. The most recent state survey shows there are more than 3,000 people who tested positive for the flu in Maryland just a few weeks ago. Now, we're all in this together, and you can count on us to help you understand how these coronavirus cases may impact our area. Remember, it's facts, not fear, that empowers us. We'll be back. Tonight, D.C. Police Chief Peter Newsham is confirming multiple internal investigations into crime underreporting in his own department. The admission came in front of a D.C. Council committee hearing. It also comes on the heels of a WUSA9 investigation into whistleblower allegations that D.C. police supervisors are downgrading crimes to make the city's crime stats look better. Here's Chief Investigative Reporter Eric Flack.
Thursday, D.C. Police Chief Peter Newsham walking into the same D.C. Council chambers 2 of his own officers did in January when they said they were blowing the whistle on crime underreporting in the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department.
I'm a sergeant for the Metropolitan Police Department, and I'm a whistleblower.
In an exclusive interview with WUSA9 Sergeant Charlotte Jassou, a 15-year MPD veteran previously honored for her service by Chief Newsham, detailed claims D.C. police supervisors are ordering investigators to downgrade crime classifications from more serious crimes to less serious ones, all to make the city's crime stats look better. Jassou says internal police documents handed over to council and obtained by WUSA9 proves her case.
It's not okay to lie to the community about what's going on around them.
Under questioning by Councilmember Charles Allen, chairman of the committee that has oversight over MPD, Chief Newsham denied a department-wide effort to downgrade crimes.
We do not have a lot of circumstances where our police officers, in my opinion, are misclassifying reports. It's very unique and specific to the agency. And we're like I said, command officials are acutely aware that they need to ensure that reporting is as accurate as it possibly can be.
But Chief Newsham said it's not unheard of either. We got our hands on this email written by a captain in the 4th District instructing officers to stop using the classification of theft in the 2nd degree where the value of the property stolen is under $25. Instead, the captain said officers should use a charge that you've probably never heard of, taking property without right, which carries a maximum of 3 months in jail rather than the 6-month sentence that could come with a theft charge. Newsham said an internal investigation found just shy of 200 cases in the 4th District ended up with that lesser crime designation, and that the captain who gave the order did it because he thought it was unfair for low-level offenders to face that more serious theft charge.
So the rationale for the decision, I do not think was mean-spirited, and I don't think it was intentional in changing statistics.
After that internal review, Newsham says all those cases that got the lower crime designation were returned to the more serious theft charge. But what about violent offenses? The whistleblowers also handed over cases they say should have been charged as felony assault with a dangerous weapon that were actually classified as misdemeanor simple assault. The chief didn't talk about those cases specifically, but he did tell Councilmember Allen there have been a number of other internal investigations into alleged downgrading of crime classifications within MPD. Now, Chief Newsham said he didn't know the exact number of cases or the details, but he did tell Councilmember Allen his staff was going to pull all the information and get it to him as soon as they could.
Do you have any concerns that there's a pattern of underreporting of crime in MPD to make the numbers look better?
I think the only pattern that we saw was what was reported in the 4th District, and I think we heard the chief and their investigations identify it and then go make changes to it. So I'm not hearing about any other large significant patterns. We would take it very seriously if we had evidence of big patterns.
Chief Newsham says there's always going to be a gray area with some crime classifications, and that part of a supervisor's job is to review how crimes are charged, especially if it's a case handled by a less experienced officer. He said if that officer has a problem with their case being downgraded, it's up to the officer to take it up the chain of command. Eric Flack, WUSA 9.
We are still waiting to learn whether Elizabeth Warren will endorse a candidate for president. Now, 2 days after a disappointing Super Tuesday, the Massachusetts senator announced she was dropping out of the race. Warren said the most difficult part of her decision was the disappointment for young girls who want to see a woman become president. Another woman, fellow Democrat Tulsi Gabbard, is still running, though she trails in the polls. Across Virginia, it is now against the law to discriminate against someone based on the way they wear their hair. When Governor Ralph Northam signed that legislation yesterday, he said this new law especially targets racial discrimination against people who choose to wear their hair in natural styles. Virginia is now the 4th state with such a law. In Maryland, Montgomery County adopted a similar law just last month.
Now, your WUSA 9 weather forecast, sponsored by Cox.
One of us is going to go to sleep, and one of us is going to stay up until 2 a.m. for a teeny-weeny chance of seeing a snowflake.
We're talking about
Which
tomorrow
one
night.
of us could it be?
We're talking about tomorrow night. That is probably the best chance. Late tomorrow night to see a snowflake inside the Beltway. And yes, I am crazy enough and deranged enough to stay up that late.
You are.
Yeah, why not? There'll be golf on, so it won't be a total loss. All right, so here's the deal. Here's the radar. The surface low is providing a lot of rain from Raleigh eastward across the coastal plain, North Carolina. This is more of an upper level low out in the Ohio Valley. If they were to phase, in other words, come together as one storm, would have been a snowstorm for us, but they're not going to do that. So one's going to slowly go off to the east. The other one's going to just whip through here tomorrow night. So what does that mean? It's still worthy of a yellow weather alert, especially because it's a Friday. So we're looking at temperatures low 40s to start at the bus stop, and some showers are possible here and there. It's not going to be a rain event everywhere. It's not going to be a continuous rain either. The temps are going to hold generally in the upper 40s tomorrow. We might just barely touch 50 in the immediate metro area. So what does that mean in terms of the next 12 hours? Well, temperatures are going to bottom out low 40s downtown. We're going to try to touch 50 or 51, and then by 6 o'clock, we might even see some sunshine. In fact, we might even see some sunshine at 3 or 4 o'clock. Again, it's not going to be a continuous rain. If we add up all the rain that's heading our way, it's very little, less than 1/3 of an inch. It's the timing that's the problem. And it's also going to be March-like tomorrow. We haven't had very many March-like or winter-like days this year. So in terms of the impacts, wet morning commute, wet evening commute, moderate. And then power outages very low. There'll be a little bit of wind tomorrow. Low visibility, possible, but very brief with the showers roll through. So temperatures, we went 50 tomorrow. 52 on Saturday, and then low 60s on Sunday. Great rebound for the weekend. And then near 70 on Monday and near 70 again on Tuesday. With those temps will come the chance for some showers and some rain, but that's kind of a small price to pay, really. So, yellow weather alert tomorrow. Wet commutes are possible, but again, I want to emphasize far from a washout, and the best chance of flakes in the metro will be late at night tomorrow. You folks west of the divide will have snow by noon, and you folks maybe far north as Frederick could have some snow by noon as well. Weekend, chilly, and then warmer on Sunday. So we're looking at temperatures. We're looking at snowfall. So we'll put this into motion by midnight tomorrow, so Saturday. Nothing in the metro. A little bit of snow to the northeast, and there's where all the snow is, west of the divide. In fact, a good weekend to go skiing. And then by 7 a.m. on Saturday, maybe a little bit of snow just north of us, maybe as close as Howard County. But again, a couple wet snowflakes are still possible inside the Beltway. So 50 tomorrow, yellow weather alert, 52 on Saturday, and then nice 63 on Sunday. So Monday, not bad. Partly cloudy near 70. We'll keep it dry, but then showers come in Tuesday, more showers Wednesday, cooler on Thursday with more rain late, temperatures in the mid-50s.
Listen, football is a tough sport. When you take a hit, you get hurt. You want to know you've got the best person out there to help you get better.
Yeah, and one of those best persons doesn't really want to stick around. The Redskins, they're allowing Trent Williams to seek a trade. What the 7-time Pro Bowler told me that confirms he's not coming back, y'all.
WUSA9 Sports with Darren Haynes, sponsored by Xfinity.
Trent Williams confirms to me the Redskins have given permission for him to seek a trade. Williams says, quote, "I am relieved at this point." The 7-time Pro Bowler held out from the Redskins over his frustration with how the team's medical staff handled a recent health issue. Trent says he was diagnosed with cancer on his head and that he almost died. Williams is entering the final year of his 5-year deal, $68 million contract. Now, there have been teams already interested in Trent Williams, and clearly Trent is not interested in staying in D.C. The only question is now, what will the Redskins get in return? What's on your mind about Trent Williams and the Redskins? Hit me up on social media at Darren and Haynes. This is what happened to the Capitals tonight. Rangers' Mika Zibanejad. He scored 5 goals, and I'm not making that up, 5 goals to beat the Caps 6-5 in overtime. Zibanejad becomes the first NHL player to score 5 goals, with the 5th goal being the overtime goal winner since Sergei Fedorov did it 23 years ago against who, y'all? The Capitals. Todd Reardon, tell me how you feel.
You have to be aware of a guy that's already scored 4 goals against you doesn't get behind you. So disappointed in some areas, that's for sure.
AU's dreams of going to the NCAA tournament are over. Saeed Nelson was honored before the game for becoming the school's all-time leading scorer, but Bucknell proved otherwise. They ruined that night. Eagles lose to the Bison 64-59, ending their season.
You want to play until, you can't play anymore, and, we felt like this was the year we had the team to, make it to the tournament. But, I mean, it's rough.
All right, Leslie Topper, one of these 2 stories gotta go. Which one you gonna go with? Guns or goggles?
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 Goggles.
All right. We're going with goggles then. All right. Terps Jalen Smith, he moved one step closer to not 1, but 2 awards. The Terp star was named a finalist for the Carmelone Award, which is given to the nation's top power forward, and a semifinalist for the Naismith Trophy. That goes to the nation's Player of the Year. So one word for that, beast. When Jalen Smith puts on those goggles, the dude plays like a beast. 20 double-doubles this season, tied for 3rd most in the country, makes 56% of his shots. That's the best in the Big Ten Conference, and the dude's only a sophomore, y'all. One of the main reasons why Maryland's ranked in the top 10 is because of Jalen Smith beast-like numbers, and that's why beast is my one word.
Trying to get it to him. Jonas James gets it to him again. Here's Snacks with 3. Snacks busted.
I remember my man Snacks, Jackson State's team manager, hit a 3-pointer in his first game and it went viral. The SWAC named him Player of the Week, and now Prince George's County's own Kevin Durant is hooking him up. Durant sent Snacks an autographed jersey. Snacks says he's been calling himself Fat Durant for years. Leslie's sneezing, and I'm thinking you're laughing.
Coughing.
Were you laughing or
No, I
coughing?
was laughing and coughing at the same time. I kept thinking.
You're laughing at Fat Durant?
Why didn't he send him snacks too? It only seemed appropriate, right?
Because snacks had too many snacks. We don't need no more snacks.
You are in trouble. And we'll be right back. All right, we brought a lot to you tonight, but we're here in this together. Thanks for staying up with us. The Late Show with Stephen Colbert is next. Have a great night.